The gods of the earth were human beings. OM 528.
Around the world there continues to be interest as well as heated dialogue concerning the massive physical evidence of extraterrestrials provided by the Plejarens, the extraterrestrial human beings who have maintained intense contact for several decades with Billy Meier. But there's far more to this story, which goes a long way to explaining why the facts surrounding this case have been so successfully and relentlessly obscured. I will describe my view of it freely here with the assumption that any reader who is serious about understanding can investigate further and see if my unqualified statements are supported by sufficient evidence. The Plejarens have facilitated the redelivery of the uncorrupted universal spiritual teachings for Earth humanity, and thus they have exposed the spirit-enslaving, evolution-stunting nature of religion. Claims and controversy continue to swirl around the ongoing case of Billy Meier and the extraterrestrials who have been visiting and guiding him since the 1940s. This fantastic-sounding story received worldwide media attention in the 1970s but then fell out of the media focus. Billy was savagely branded a hoaxer. Stupid and malicious arguments still rage against the authenticity of his too good to be true hundreds of daytime photos, film segments and other hard evidence, which was provided by these advanced human beings. Smaller arguments also continue around the prophetic material and the exquisitely detailed astronomical information given to Billy before it was discovered by Earth's scientists. But these ET human beings didn't come just to demonstrate the reality of advanced ET technology, certain astronomical facts and the obstinate and idiotic nature of Earth human beings, or even just to dissuade us from becoming a menace in the cosmic neighborhood. They came in an act of love to show us that our world is gripped by consciousness-enslaving, evolution-robbing, false religious teachings, which had been set in train on Earth millennia ago by some of their own distant ancestors, who were intent on subjugating the primitive human beings by misrepresenting themselves as creator gods. The resulting madness and delusion has brought us to the brink of global catastrophe, despite necessarily strident warnings given over the millennia. This matter, the exposure of the deception of Earth religions, is largely what has kept the Billy Meier story obscured, including, even especially, within the ufology community, which has been among the first to pour on ill-informed or ill-motivated scorn and bile. It is the main reason Billy is the subject of such constant and vicious attacks, which have even included many attempts on his life. And this is the reason that the true nature of the teachings promoted by the Plejarens, Billy Meier and highly advanced spirit forms is still so poorly understood. This is why it is avoided, or distorted and ridiculed by people working at all levels at keeping this message from taking hold. The message of the Plejarens and Billy threatens the highest political and religious powers on this plane. Manifestly insane powers who, exploiting our weakened understanding of our true spiritual capabilities, and also exploiting our weakened level of critical thinking, are apparently intent on leading us to our doom, and the planet with it. The prophet Emmanuel, as quoted in the book Talmud Emmanuel 2011 edition, said the following in Emmanuel's Farewell, chapter 32, verse 17.
The human beings should develop within themselves the discernment over the good and the evil and the correct perception of all things, so that they may be wise and fair and follow the law.
Ironically, or rather predictably, one of the common lies promoted about Billy Meier and Figu, the group which spreads his teaching, is that it is a cult, or the start of a new religion. This is complete nonsense, though brilliantly distracting, which is readily taken in by countless people who don't make their own inquiries. As you will see, Billy, while teaching tolerance of people's beliefs unambiguously, opposes the idea of bowing down to any other being or seeking salvation from a deity. He teaches self-responsibility. Each person is responsible for his or her own spiritual evolution and for his or her own life, although, of course, he or she may have teachers and helpers. And importantly, along with teaching love and peace, Billy Meier teaches that we should seek to evolve through knowledge, wisdom and logic. In Decalogue, the book in which Billy has written down the original, unfalsified 12 recommendations, with explanations, it says the following, line 75.
And a new time demands only intellect and rationality alone from you, in order to find the truth and to realize it.
Die neue Sitte fordert nur noch allein Verstand und Vernunft von dir, die Wahrheit zu finden und sie zu erkennen.
It might be surprising when the new reader sees in Billy Meier's writing familiar-sounding phrases and presentations, reminiscent of religious doctrines, and to hear that this teaching is not in the slightest bit based on belief, and is actually very different in meaning to the familiar distortions of which we have often become enamored. It is hard to think this way at first since, of course, it is the original material which would now be strange to us. But we are not meant to accept this information unthinkingly through belief. Billy's teaching says that wise people hear, see, listen, think and feel, but don't speak about something or take it on as their own without first considering and getting to the bottom of everything. In the introduction to the Decalogue, he writes,
Always examine everything very exactly and then only trust that which is good.
It is confronting and confusing to discover that this spiritual teaching of love is sometimes delivered in very harsh language. But diplomacy is dishonesty and results in misunderstandings, and we are seen to be sorely in need of the plain truth. What better to make us really, honestly think, than to have our cherished, erroneous opinions stridently challenged? The book includes the following verse.
23:14 Therefore, do not seek your well-being from those that are false prophets and sect leaders and the like, and who butter you up with stolen honey. Rather, seek your well-being from the truthful leaders and the truthful prophets, who say to you the truth accurately with hard words, and who demand effort from you, and hard adherence to the laws and recommendations of creation.
23:14 Suchet daher nicht euer Wohl bei denen, die da sind falsche Propheten und Sektenfrauen dergleichen und die euch gestohlenen Honig das Maul schmieren, sondern suchet euer Wohl bei den wahrheitlichen Frauen und beim wahrlichen Propheten, die da euch mit harten Worten treffend die Wahrheit sagen und die da von euch mir fordern und harte Befolgung der Gesetze und Gebote der Schöpfung.
My primary aim here is to make this information known to those who want to know, regardless of to what extent we agree with it. Here we have manifestly advanced human beings of some kind, with extraordinary resources and capabilities, delivering all kinds of intelligent and wise information, and strange insights to earth humanity and pointed criticism. I think, we supporters and opponents alike have an urgent need and obligation to our fellow earthlings to find out what it's all about. I should clarify that, for me, along with the massive evidence of the reality of these human beings, which can be assessed with reasonable logic, the overall integrity of the teaching and wisdom speaks for itself. But the nature and quantity of the material is such that to really be familiar with it all and truly understand it could take lifetimes. And as far as the spiritual teaching is concerned in particular, if someone does not recognize it as representing true creational, universal wisdom and love, then arguments from me will not be persuasive. Following is an explanation from Billy Meier regarding how he and Feedu regard themselves and their role with the dissemination of the teachings. From the booklet, an interview with a UFO contactee.
We are neither a religious, sectarian community, nor are we a political, military or secular community that would claim a totalitarian truth that is alone valid. In no form are we absolutely fully developed or absolutely fully knowing, therefore we cannot spread a teaching that is absolutely fully developed, thus therefore many questions remain open. Consequently, we can only spread the truth of the creational natural laws and recommendations known to us, the correctness of which we can vouch for and say that it is the only and pure truth, which every human being can fathom, experience and live in himself or herself and in the entire nature and environment if he or she is willing to search for and find this truth. And in this respect there is no other truth than that which actually exists. And we represent only this truth.
By reading the contact notes of conversations between Billy Meier and the Plejarens, we know that there have been some errors and misunderstandings throughout the decades of the intense Plejarens' involvement with Billy. But we also know that the Plejarens and Billy do not pretend to be perfect, or to be anything other than human beings, albeit very advanced still, subject to limitations, who admit to even advertise their mistakes. We must learn through our own thinking and reasoning.
Vivian Legg, January 12, 2005, revised July 13, 2022.